Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming. Lest we lose our eyes on the prize, I'm pleased to report, as will be evidenced by Captain Ballas, that we do have a subject in custody for this, and we now believe that the public is at no greater threat or risk of harm. Having said that, however, I come to you with a concerned heart as the chief of the City of Madison Police Department. This act of gun violence reflected on our streets in the 700 block of West Badger Road on the south side of Madison should not be viewed as unique or isolated aberration of an occurrence. I know some will say, well, let's ascribe that to the south side. They've had their issues, their challenges. Nay, I say to that, we have gun violence erupting throughout this city, and it is growing at an alarming rate. And it is something that I think all of us as members who live in this community have to gather around and understand that we all have a contribution to play in this, and I hope everyone will step up. This happened on the south side, but it originated in downtown Madison, as evidence of the timetable will reflect in Captain Ballas' chronology. The fact of the matter is, my officers report, and I have in fact witnessed and heard incidences that occur every night where a gun is either threatened in its use, brandished, or actually fired off. And some in our community would say that this is an issue that we would ascribe to Milwaukee, 72 miles to the east, to which I say, get your head out of the sand. Gun violence is here, right here in Madison. Not Milwaukee, Madison. I'm participating in a gun summit on violence with Chief Flynn in Milwaukee next week because I have seen the handwriting on the wall, and this community is up to its eyebrows in it. Let me give you historical context. When I first came on in 1983, working 6 days on, you might hear an alert tone sounding over all of our dispatch channels indicating a crime involving a weapon was in use, maybe once or twice in 6 days. All of our officers, including myself, when we ride the streets now, it is not untoward to hear that alert tone go off 1 or 2 times in any given 8-hour shift. So the point of denial is no more. Madison is a big city with big city problems, including gun violence. Just in the last week leading up to this terrible homicide, we saw no less than 4 different instances of guns reported being used and shell cases being recovered from various parts in our city. Officers who work off-duty in an off-duty special duty capacity during bar time down in the Central District report frightening things of what they see being shifted in waistbands and covered up with shirts or coattails, or people that are avoiding any contact with the police because the way they're walking, we know that they are carrying something that wasn't given to them biologically. They have a gun on board. So the fact remains is that we need everyone on board in terms of the initiatives that we have to use to stem to curb this gun violence that we're seeing. It is only by logistical luck that we haven't had more homicides to date in our community. Through faulty ammo and bad aim is about the only thing that hasn't doubled up our numbers right now. So those people who would continue to live their lives in Madison minimizing, rationalizing, discounting, or avoiding the painful realities of what gun violence is doing to our community had better get a grip, because it is here and we need to all deal with it. I'm calling upon our clergy, our schools, our mentors, our coaches, our guardians, our parents, anyone and everyone who has the eyes and the ears of young, impressionable people, predominantly, will urge them to think a different way about reconciliation, to urge them not to take self-help measures, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. That stuff just creates more carnage in our streets. There's nothing more disconcerting than to come up to a barren street and see a young 25-year-old male cut down in the prime of life, lying strewn on a city street. We can do better. We have to do better. We have to have a coordinated community response on many fronts. That's my takeaway for this. Today, this incident, at least we know one person who chose to take a handgun and do self-help measures. That one person has been brought into custody. But my job as chief is to go beyond the pale of the single incident that led to an arrest and hopefully a conviction of this individual. My job is to turn up the heat, turn on the lights, and expose this grisly problem for what it is. Because we cannot continue to ascribe this to an isolated incident, which, oh yes, in this incident occurred on the South Side. The South Side has been a hopeful path of redemption for much of our city, and I don't care to see it characterized or maligned as something that's, again, out of the ordinary for any of our districts. In fact, it has less crime than some of our districts, depending on the measures. So we need to know that this is now a citywide problem with citywide implications, and that no one can take a seat on the sidelines. Captain Ballas.
Thanks, Chief. On Saturday morning, August 30th, about 2:15 a.m., a number of Madison police officers working in the downtown area on a busy holiday weekend broke up a very large disturbance in the 400 block of North Francis Street that eventually led into the Francis Street ramp. Many of these officers were working part of our downtown safety initiative and encouraged the crowd to leave the area. At 3:23 a.m., the Dane County 911 Center, about an hour later, started to receive calls of a disturbance with shots being fired in the 700 block of West Badger Road. As those 911 calls were starting to come in, a Town of Madison police officer was just clearing from a call in the 800 block of West Badger Road, drove down the hill and came upon a group of individuals in the middle of the 700 block of West Badger Road standing over a subject who was down in the roadway, some of whom are trying to perform first aid. As MPD officers arrived on the scene, it soon determined the subject had sustained a gunshot injury and was conveyed by Madison Fire Rescues to UW hospitals. The subject, later identified as Darren Goodwan, is pronounced dead at 4:24 a.m. During the day on Saturday, MPD detectives interviewed several witnesses who were present or had information about the shots and the disturbance in the 700 block of West Badger Road. It was soon learned that some of these individuals involved in the West Badger Road disturbance were also present or involved in the Francis Street disturbance. MPD officers throughout the weekend searched the city for a late model silver Pontiac type vehicle which was seen fleeing the homicide scene westbound on Badger Road. And I'll just point out this photo here is from our city surveillance cameras that park in Badger looking towards the belt line, and that's our car right there flying the approximately 40 miles plus an hour plus through the West Badger Road intersection moving westbound. This vehicle was believed to have contained our suspect and other persons injured in the disturbance. On Sunday evening, August 31st, that vehicle was recovered on the city's west side in the 1300 block at Temkin Avenue with several different bullet holes in the vehicle. There's the vehicle where it was located, and you can see the bullet holes plus that window is actually shot out as well. On Sunday, MPD and Town of Madison detectives executed search warrants at two residences in the 2700 block of McDivitt Road and 700 block of West Badger Road regarding this investigation. During the day on Sunday, MPD detectives also became aware that the Dubuque, Iowa Police Department had come into contact with a subject early Saturday morning who was reporting to be a victim of a robbery and sustained a gunshot wound to his leg. MPD detectives were able to confirm this individual to be Tyrone Isaac, our suspect in this homicide investigation. Isaac used an alias name to Dubuque Police and the local hospital. During their investigation, Dubuque Police interviewed our suspect about his robbery, took photos, collected evidence, etc. MPD detectives also learned Isaac left the local hospital against medical advice on Saturday night, taking a cab to a nearby Walmart, and then eventually that cab to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. On Sunday evening, August 31st, MPD detectives obtained a probable cause arrest warrant for Tyrone Isaac for the homicide of Darren Goodwan. MPD detectives proceeded to work with officers from the Cedar Rapids Police Department in an attempt to apprehend Isaac that night. On Monday evening, detectives learned from Cedar Rapids Police that Isaac had already left their city and was now en route to the Denver area by Greyhound bus. On Tuesday, yesterday, MPD detectives coordinated with the Denver Police Fugitive Unit to solicit their assistance in apprehending Isaac. Shortly before 3:00 p.m., Isaac surrendered himself to the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office in Centennial, Colorado. This morning, 2 MPD detectives flew to the Denver area, where they are now attempting to interview Isaac and other witnesses in the Denver area. Thus far, an investigation has revealed more than 1 firearm was used at the scene on West Badger Road. We are still looking to speak to several persons we know were present on West Badger Road at the time of the homicide. For persons who wish to speak to an MPD detective about this homicide, we ask that you call the South Police District at 266-5938 or simply stop into any of our district facilities or downtown headquarters here and ask to talk to someone. For persons who wish to provide information about this case anonymously, we encourage you to use the Madison Area Crime Stoppers tipster line at 266-6014. We would like to extend our sincere thanks and appreciation to many agencies who assisted us in this investigation, particularly Chief Scott Gregory and Detective Mansavage from the Town of Madison Police Department, the cities of Dubuque, Iowa and Cedar Rapids Police, the Denver, Colorado Police Fugitive Unit, and the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office for their assistance hosting our detectives and working with them today. Lastly, all of us here at the Madison Police Department and everyone involved in this case, our thoughts and sympathies are with the family and friends of our victim, Darren Goodwan. He spent a fair amount of his life in Madison, was born in the Indiana area, and will be laid to rest this coming Saturday in the services with family in Gary.